problem. All right, so like I mentioned, assuming you've already downloaded R and downloaded RStudio, I'll just start by describing the RStudio interface. So you can break it down into like 4 parts just based on what you can see visually. So on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. So on the left-hand side is where you usually have your code, be it the R code or other types of files that through which you work with R. So you have that happening here, like some of the material I'm going through currently open in R, you will be able to open them in here. So I have other files open here as well that maybe I'm just playing with. So a very important component of RStudio is the console. So that's what you have right here. That's where you can type in code. If you run code within files you have open, that will happen in the console. That will run within the console. Then on the right-hand side, so you have things like the environment. It shows data that you're currently working with. You also have history. The codes you've been running within the console will show up in the history. So there's also things like tutorial, connections. And then here in the lower right-hand side, you have the files. So for the directly you are currently working in, so you will have files. The files you are trying to work with will show up in here so you can see them. It also shows the directory you are currently working in. Like here, I have a directory called Stats Clinic that I'm working from. So there are also things like the plots. So if you plot things within R, it will show up here. So there are packages. R packages are currently installed, and you can get help as well from the help tab within this area. So basically, that's like an overview of the interface. So the next thing I just want to quickly go into is we can do like basic operations. I already showed you the console. It's a part of the RStudio interface you'll be using frequently. So I tried things like, let's say 2 + 3. So I'm going to just clear what I previously had here. So let's say you can try things like 2 + 3, basic operations. So you see the result is 5. You can try maybe something else like 5 + 5. And then it gives you the result. So I'll just quickly show something before we go into basic operations with R, which is assigning variables. So like right here, you can see the code. It says, assign X is a variable. So if you want to assign a value to X, like say X is 2 and say Y is 3. So it's like the way you do that is you use something that looks like the less than sign and a dash to assign a value to a variable. Okay, it looks like someone is writing on the screen. Anyway, so I can give X the value of who is Anajaza. They are currently writing on the screen. Okay, so I can give X the value of 2 and give Y the value of 3. And then I can say X + Y. And then when I say X + Y, that gives me 5 because I've already assigned X the value of 2 and assign Y the value of 3. So the way you do this assignment of values with this less than sign and then dash. So the next step is, I want us to try basic operations. So are there any volunteers that would like to share their screen so we can try out things like, 33 plus 7, 33 minus 7 within the R console? If you're interested in sharing your screen, you can just raise your hand. Is there anyone?
I just want to assure you that, we're all learning here, right? And there is no expectation that you already know this thing before coming here. That's the purpose of being here. And you should feel free to be able to make mistakes. It's not a large enough class that there's going to be any, social fallout from making mistakes in the presence of everyone. Just feel free. It's in engaging with the class that you're going to also benefit on a hands-on basis. So, okay, I'll jump off now.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Idris and Glory. So I think we'll start by, so let's start with Idris, and then when there's something else to do, we'll continue with Glory. Okay, I'm actually seeing messages in the chat as well. So there's a question about, I'm looking at my R software and can't find the option for basic operation. I don't know if it's on the software. So to respond to that, I'll just say, if you can see the console, okay, we'll just demonstrate with Idris. So Idris is raising his hand. Idris, are you able to share your screen? I'll stop sharing my screen so you can share yours. Hello, Idris.
While Idris is sharing his screen, someone asked, what is the difference between R and RStudio?
So the way I will explain that is, okay, thank you, Idris. So the way I will explain that is, R is like a statistical package, but it's like, I can describe it as a program, but the way you use the program is actually RStudio. So it's like a development environment. If you want to see R itself, it's just, to use R itself is like maybe on your computer when you search for terminal. The way you'll be able to use it is just typing code in the terminal, but not everybody is familiar with that, just entering codes in a terminal. So to give you like a user interface that makes it possible to make use of R with a better interface. So that's essentially what RStudio is. So thank you, Idris, for sharing your screen. So yeah, you're already trying out the basic operations. So we can just start by trying out things like, let's say 33 plus 7, 33 minus 7. So yeah, so I want you to try something. I want you to try, you can try the untitled code in your, in the first part of the interface. So where you have 2 minus 2 on the left-hand side, where you have 2 minus 2. So I want you to, enter the basic operations in there. So let's start with like 33 plus 7. Okay, 4 plus 5, that's fine too. And then try running that. So
how do I run it?
So you can highlight the 33.7. So, and use Command plus Enter. Okay, so that's it. So you can just highlight the code you want to run and then Command plus Enter, and then that runs. So
I feel like you out program already. I feel like
so you can do
program already.
So you can, I think you can try out other things as well. Like let's try out 33 minus 7, 33 over 7. Let's just try the basic operations. Okay, then you can highlight that and okay, great. Thank you. I remember there was someone else who also raised their hands and wanted to try. So thank you so much, Idris, for volunteering. I think when we get to another point, we could ask you to come up again. I think that person was Glory. Glory, do you want to share your screen? Thank you, Idris. So there's a question on Command or Alt. I can't remember what it says for Windows. I use a Mac, so I'm not sure if it is Control. Dr. Abiy, do you remember what it is to run the code on?
To run the code?
To run the code on Windows.
I think you can use Control.
I think it's Control R.
You can also click the run. So if you highlight the, if you highlight it, you can also click run.
Okay, so Glory, I can see your screen. So currently you don't have any file open. So I'll suggest you can start by creating a new HAR file. So that's the terminal, that's the console. Click the console. So yeah, you can run operations on the console as well, but let's try by opening a new file. New file, just go to new file, and then you can do RScript. Let's start with RScript now. Nice. So you now have a first section of the interface where you can enter your HAR code and things like that. So you can go to line 1 under this untitled document. In the first part of the interface that you've just created. Yes. So you can type in simple things there. Try things like maybe 2 plus 3. You can try that. Yeah, and to run that, you can select, I like the 2 plus 3, and just Control plus Enter if you are using a Windows. Yeah, nice. So that works. And you could also as well just click the run at the top of your, but that's basically what I wanted to show. So thank you, Glory. I think we can stop sharing our screen. You can stop sharing your screen now. So I'll try and run through the other basic operations. People can try it with their computers. And if there's any issue, we can figure out what the issue is together. So I want people to ask questions if they have any questions, or if we are trying an operation and you think you are not able to do that, you can just maybe raise your hand. Okay. So we tried the basic operation. You can do 33 plus 7 minus 7, square root, log, exponential. You can do all of that. The other thing I also showed when we started was assigning values to variables. So like we assigned, you can try assigning value of 33 to X, 7 to Y, and then do X plus Y. We did something like that earlier on. So you can try typing that in the R script you have open. Okay, some people have their hands up. So Philip, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I downloaded the RStudio, and when I switch it on, it's just like it doesn't show the full interface, just one page.
Okay.
Can I share my screen?
Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen so we figure out what's going on. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so it just shows this, and I know I could do this stuff here, but like just this.
I'm not sure this is, I think this is R.
Yes.
This is not RStudio.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is R itself. And this is what I was explaining earlier, where I'm saying you basically have to interact with the software with code entirely if you want to do anything. So this is like working with just the R console. The four interfaces I was showing you when I was sharing my screen, it's almost like you're having just a single part of that, just that console interface. That's all you have here. So you'll have to install RStudio specifically.
Okay.
To be able to see the different interfaces.
Yeah, and there's a link in the comments, in the chat about where you can download RStudio.
Oh, okay.
Just look on the chat. Yeah. You could also check your email too. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to also say that you have to have R on your computer to use RStudio. So it's important to note that, so because I know some people are going to be able to download RStudio now, but you have to also download the base R itself to be able to use RStudio.
So Olani Ibrahim, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question? Olani, do you have a question?
Yes, I joined on my phone and I was trying to follow up. I realized that I think I needed to join on the laptop to be able to do what you were doing because I didn't have the same page that you had. So I just joined on the laptop now, and I think I have something similar to what you have now. So maybe I will just follow up from there.
All right, thank you. So we did basic math operations. We did assigning variables, X, giving X a value, giving Y a value. So you can do things like X plus Y and things like that. So I'm looking at the amount of time we've spent. So I think I'll just move on to like vectors. So the vectors are basically, so they are objects in which you can have, within a vector, you can have different objects. For instance, here, this is a vector and you have numbers within the vector. So there's 26, 7, there's a group of like 5 numbers within that vector. So you can have another vector where you have numbers and then like a letter, or you can have numbers and a variable within a vector. You can even have a vector where there are other vectors within it. So beside vectors, there is also lists. So the list will contain elements, different elements within them. So a list can have like numbers, it can have strings, characters. You can even have vectors within lists. So, and you can have a list within another list. So if you want to make a list within the part of R where you have the code, you can try things like writing. So you can label something, say vector 1. So I'm just going to try it here in the console. So let's do vector 1. So to create a vector, let's say we want to create this vector with 5 different numbers within it. So after doing the assignments, this assignment operator, so you have this less than and dash sign. This is how you assign values to anything within R. So we're assigning values to this vector. So within this vector, there are 5 numbers. Let's say 26, 7, 4, 5, and 8. So to just see what's within the vectors, I can just do print vector 1 and then enter. So when I print vector 1, it prints out the numbers within vector 1. So the numbers I've entered, 26, 7, 4, 5, and 8. You print that out and you have it basically just gives you all the values you have within it. So if you have another vector where, let's say vector 2 now, and the value of vector 2 is so let's say 1, 3, and y. So, and then you create a vector 3. Vector 3. And the vector 3 contains vector 1 and vector 2. So we can try printing what's in vector 3. Vector 3. Okay, so you see what happens here where when I say print vector 3, it basically just gives me what's in vector 1, 26, 7, 4, 5, 8, and what's in vector 2, 1, 3, and y. So part of why it's giving me 3 here is because we already assigned the value of 3 to y earlier on when we're writing this part of the code. So it just gives the value of 3 for y. So we can move on to lists. So if you think about vectors and you think about lists, it's almost like, oh, they look like they're the same thing. But the difference between vectors and lists is with a vector, you store elements that are of the same type. So like numbers, it can be strings specifically, or it can be vectors and vectors specifically. But then in lists, you can have the elements within the list can be of different types. So you can have within a list, you can have vectors, numbers within the list, strings within the list. You can even have logic. So you can have this true or false value as one of the elements within a list. Does anybody have any question at this point? Okay.
Before you go on, I just wanted to also use a different word to describe vectors. And for the most part, we think about vectors as variables. I'm not sure if you said that. Like in regular, like data analysis terms, in most other softwares, in Excel, in R. In Excel, you think about it as a column in your data, right? In SPSS, you would think about it as a variable, and understanding that we're talking about essentially the same thing is helpful, for you to wrap your head around what's happening, because vector is often a new term for many people when they encounter it. So that's why I wanted to repeat that again, to emphasize it. Yeah.
So let's try out lists. We can try out the code for lists. So the name of the list, let's say the name of the list is, anyway, the code is already here. I don't know why I'm just writing it out, but the code is already here. So for this list, for instance, contains the string red, another string green, and then you have a vector in here within the list that has numbers. Sorry, Philip, did you say something? Okay, so you have the numbers 21, 32, 11, and then you have true, then you have 51.23 and 119.1. And then if you try to print the data within this list, so I'll just run that here. And when you say print list data, it just shows you everything in here. So it prints red, green, 21, 32, 11, true, 51.23, 119.1. So it prints all of that. Okay, so it prints all of that for you and you can see the results. So you can also create two different lists and then merge them together. So let's say you have list 1 with 1, 2, and 3, and you have list 2 with Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So you can just do merge list. And the way you do that is you do merged plus lists, and then use this assignment operator and then see into list 1 and list 2. Then if you do that and you print you print out the elements within merged list, it will give you what's in list 1 and what's in list 2. So we could just try that here anyways. So let's say list 1 is list 1 is lists 1, 2, 3, and list 2 is lists Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So to merge the two lists, we can call it merge.list, or we can call it something else, but let's call it merge.list. And then assignment operator, and then see list 1, list 2. So if you then try to print merge lists, it gives you what's inside list 1 and list 2. So it gives you the result of, so 1, 2, 3, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, what you have inside list 1 and then list 2. Are there any questions? Okay. Looks like there's another Dr. Abioye on the call.
So I have
With the hand
2 accounts.
raised. Okay, I see the hand is raised. That's what
So basically, yeah, so someone else is in my account.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Temitoya.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to see the results it printed. I wanted to just ask, does it, when you print the list, does it identify what belongs to what list? Because I was a bit confused when it was printed out, and I cannot tell whether it would like specifically say, okay, this belongs to list 1 or list 2 if you were quick. So could you please redo it and let's see?
Yeah, so I don't think it does that. I've not heard of it doing that, specifying, oh, this came from list 1 or list 2. But I'll just run the code here. What happens is if you recognize the elements from list 1, if it's like, for instance, it was the numbers 1, 2, and 3, and then there's Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Obviously, the strings came from list 2, the numbers came from list 1, and you assign the value of the elements that will be in the new list. You did like this thing, similar to what we're doing with vectors, and you said, oh, list 1 and list 2. So the merged list will have list 1 and list 2. And then when you print the elements within the merged list, it gives you everything 1, 2, 3, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So if I run the code here, for instance, you see it just gives 1, 2, 3, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
So let me also say that yes, it won't identify which lists the element is coming from. If you know, sometimes when you're doing analysis, you want to know where the element is coming from. And in that case, you have to create an extra variable that identifies. So you will create small data sets where in that data set will identify the source. So in that case, when you merge it, it will be clear which observation comes from where. But in this case, it won't.
Okay. So, Asabe, do you have a question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. So I wanted to ask, are there rules for typing? Because I got a couple of error messages before realizing like some had like quotation marks and some didn't. So are there rules, or you just type and see how it goes?
Thank you very much for that question. So like if you see like so the numbers, you write them as numbers. The strings, you need quotation marks around the string. So it could be single quotes or double quotes around the strings. So the strings, for me, the way I understand the strings are basically things like, oh, things that are non-numbers, like, oh, maybe words like Monday, Tuesday, Sunday. So they'll have to be quotes around them. So if you leave them as just Monday, it might mean that you are referring to a specific variable. Like for instance, this list 2 has no quotes around it because list 2 is actually a variable. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay. So I think I might have to start moving a little bit faster because of the time we have. We're like halfway through already, but we haven't covered half of the material.